but it was about, I just want to be a better man. How can I develop personally to become the man that I want to be? So it was about life skills. And that's the perspective that you needed to actually make changes. And I feel like that as a spouse and a partner, that's what we need. We need to have this ability of like, I want to live the life that I want to live.
Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Till the Wheels Fall Off. I'm Matt.
I'm Paige.
Trusting yourself is one of the hardest things in the world to do. Without any problems in your life, it can be a really difficult thing. I think back to being a child and never being allowed to make decisions, the 12 to 18 years that you spend in school, and that's not really built to help you make decisions. And then let's say that you're kind of a timid personality. You get into a relationship with someone who's sort of overbearing. That doesn't help you make decisions. And so you can find yourself in situations as an adult where you still don't feel like you're allowed to make decisions. And so what do? You reach out to people on the internet. You leave comments. You're on ChatGPT all day. None of this is really strengthening the muscles necessary to help you make decisions. We've got experience with this, and we're going to talk about that today. What can you do to help you make decisions right now to help you change your life? Getting back to some of the content we wanted to make when we first started the show, right now, this is the kind of stuff that this gets us fired up. And I think it's applicable to the audience that we've kind of cultivated. This is a lesson that everyone needs to know. So how do I start making decisions right now, today, that make a difference in my life? Where do I get the gall to do that? Where does that come from? We're going to discuss every bit of it today, why it's difficult, what you can do to overcome it, and where this is ultimately going to take you. I think I got that right.
Yeah, right. That was great. Way better than I was going to do.
We're going to change things up a little bit. Typically, we do sponsors and things like that at the beginning, but I know that so many of you tune out. I want to hook you right now. So we'll work those in. SoberLink is a sponsor of the show. It will not go unmentioned. Also, all the stuff that we offer, like our free Facebook community, our website, and everything else. But let's just get into this. Let's get straight into this discussion.
Yeah. So you hear all the time, or you may hear a lot, like, just be confident, just trust yourself, just do things for yourself, just do this and that. It's not that simple. So I kind of wanted to break it down in this episode to help you, like, with tiny little changes that you can make every day to help yourself build that trust needed to just like live the life that you want to live, because we're so scared to make decisions. And this isn't just for, spouses that have been affected by somebody with addiction. This is just life in general. Like you said, going to school, we learn, like, we're taught to be controlled in a way. We're taught to do what other people,
how to be submissive,
how to be submissive, how to be good, how to be, make decisions that you may not even feel are right for you. Sometimes we like to break rules as long as it doesn't hurt other people. Sometimes we like to do things that kind of go against the grain. That's what high agency is. That's
breaking
just like
rules is my favorite pastime.
It is. And honestly, like, this is one of the things that Matt brought to our relationship that I felt really changed me as a person in a really good way. And it made me become a better mom, a better spouse, just a better person in general, because I was raised with the mentality of, there are rules in place for a reason. You need to follow the rules. You need to do this. You need to make sure that you're doing what people are telling you to do. And in a way, I think it was somewhat beneficial for me because I was like the good girl next door. I made good grades. I made good decisions. But it made me not question things that were in place. Like, what we've learned over the years, we're going to turn 40 this year. What we've learned is that things change all the time. Rules can change all the time. Like, life changes constantly. So if we're like following this one rule all the time, it can change at any moment. And it's like, oh my gosh, I knew I shouldn't have been doing that in the first place because it was going against my gut anyway. Like, I just want to kind of break that down a little bit here and just help people make decisions throughout the day to help them trust themselves again. And then eventually you'll be able to make really big decisions and be okay with it no matter what other people think. Like, this is kind of for people pleasers as well, which a lot of us are people pleasers, right?
Major, yeah.
Just in general, people are people pleasers. And I think that comes from being scared of being wrong or being afraid of doing something that is going against the grain,
When we first met, like, we could not be more different people. Like, in our relationship, our marriage, like, I was always the rule breaker. Like, there were no rules and you followed every single rule. And then somehow we decided to get married and have children and try to coexist together and parent people. And I've learned so much from you. We've talked a lot about that, where I didn't have any rules, and you do need some, as it turns out, because off the rails you can go without any kind of guardrails in your life.
We need structure.
And I did. And then I think on the other side of that, you learned a lot from me about testing limits and rules.
I think we've done a good job of meeting in the middle, learning from each other, because you did things that were like basically against the law, and you did things that were harmful to other people.
Yeah.
And me, I was doing things that was just more harmful to myself. So it's like we were complete opposites, and we were able to just meet in the middle. And I think that that's what we're going to like give away today.
Yeah. Like one of the themes I think in a lot of this is you can be so concerned with the rules and not affecting other people that you can be paralyzed and not making decisions, because you become so attuned to staying in the box, staying in your, like inside the lines of where you belong. And guys, listen, like, I don't know where you live, but like where we live, every September, there are like a bevy of new laws that are created every September. Sometimes they change old ones, they create new ones, they get rid of old stuff. And every September, like Paige and I will talk about this, she's like, it's all just bullshit. Like every bit of it. Like this thing that I believed was like commissioned by God or something, that like, this is the way we should do things. I forget it's just created by fallible people, like much like a lot of the norms that we follow every day. And some of them have a place. Some of them are just arbitrary, but we look at them like someone far more wise than us created this kind of stuff. And like, I'm just this little fledgling. I know not. I'm just going to follow the rules. But if you do that to eternity, you will be living a life that is not of your own choosing. You will find yourself in situations that you know you don't belong in, and you're not going to have the tools to get out of them. So what would it take to take someone who has kind of followed the rules and ended up in a bad situation? They want to get out of it. How do we start deciding what's best for us? How do we learn to decide what's meant for us and not just being told what to do? I think you've got a ton of experience with this.
Yeah. Well, I think this can apply to anybody that's either like in a relationship, out of the relationship, where you feel like you can't even make decisions on your own, where you're just afraid of the backlash, or you're afraid to make the wrong decision, or so you just stay stuck. You're just sitting there, not making any decisions, which in the long run is going to cause more harm than if you were to make bad decisions, or if you were to have consequences.
It's like that old saying that there's far more is lost by indecision than by wrong decision.
Yes. Yeah, it's true.
It's like the world, or the roads are full of squirrels that couldn't make a decision to go right or left. They just got plowed over.
Where am I going to go? They got small brains.
It's the worst when they do that.
I know. And you always wonder, how did that squirrel get hit? And then you realize the next time, like you drive by and a squirrel gets hit, you hit a squirrel and you're like, oh, now I see what happened. I always see how that happens. They do not make up their mind.
Little homie just couldn't make a decision.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
Right. So the things that I learned over the years is that we don't really learn when someone else is telling us what to do. We don't learn when we ask for advice constantly and we do what somebody else tells us. What we learn from is actually making decisions for ourselves. That's where confidence comes from. That's where that self-trust is going to come from, because you start making decisions no matter what other people say. You're just like, okay, this feels right for me. I'm going to give this a shot and see what happens. And it's scary, but you have to start with the like low stake risks, right? Like really low stake. Like that's what I like to do. I'm very much, I'm going to give this a shot and figure it out and see what happens. And then we'll go from there instead of asking.
This could be something as arbitrary and dumb as trying a new drink somewhere, like at Starbucks. This could be trying something on the menu you wouldn't ordinarily try, because why not? It's low stakes. Like the outcome here, the risk is so freaking low. Right.
So let's say you are the type of person who can't decide what to eat for dinner. And you're like, I just need to ask somebody's advice. I need to either put it in ChatGPT. I need to Google it. I need to ask my partner. I need to ask a friend. I need to ask somebody, hey, what's your opinion? What should I have for dinner tonight? I challenge you to not ask for any opinions on what you should be doing for dinner. Just make a decision and roll with it, because the reality is it's one meal. It's not going to affect anything. If you're not going to make a wrong decision, it's just going to be like, okay, I made a meal. What's next? You know, another option that I see, like, I think a lot of women tend to ask other people what they're wearing to certain events. Like, let's say you're going to a concert, you're going to a a party, you're going to your family member's house, a holiday or something, and you want to message a friend or a family member and say, hey, what are you wearing to this? So that you can gauge what is appropriate for you to wear. I've always challenged myself to not go down that route. I want to like, and I've made mistakes. I have made mistakes in the past where I have worn something that was probably not appropriate at the time.
Think of one in particular.
I do know of one in particular. I accidentally wore white to a wedding. Okay. I did not know it was an ordeal. I didn't know the rules surrounding this, guys. I'm a guy. I really am. I look at these things as like, okay, yeah, it's important, but it's also like, it's not that deep, but I wore white to a wedding and somebody mentioned it in a very snarky way. And I felt bad, but then I was just like,
was it an older person?
No, it wasn't. It was actually the bride. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, it was the bride. I don't want to get into details. This happened many years ago. And I didn't think much of it, but I was like, I learned that lesson. I learned from that. I learned from not I didn't do it intentionally. It wasn't like I was doing it to be ugly or rude or disrespectful, as people would say. Because honestly, if somebody I think people wore champagne to our wedding or whatever. I don't care. I didn't care. I was like, you can wear what you want. But either way, I learned from that. And I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that going forward, but it is what it is. And I'm not going to beat myself up over it. But also, I think it's fun to be able to just go with the flow and say like, okay, this is what's comfortable. This is what's going to happen if I wear the wrong thing? Like, are we really wearing the wrong thing? If you think about it in depth, no, not necessarily. You're just kind of like, let's just go with the flow and figure this out. So I don't ask people opinions on what to wear to certain things. So that's just something that you can try. I know that it might sound like, okay, that's not a big deal, but it is, because that's going to build that self-trust and that confidence within yourself to know if what you feel is appropriate or not.
Yeah, little low stakes moments every single day. What you eat, what you wear, where you go or where you don't go, what you watch. This may sound arbitrary and stupid. Like, how is that actually going to make a difference? But just give it a shot. Give it a shot for 30 days. To start making decisions on your own, to start challenging some of the norms that have been established in whatever way. This can be, you might have an opportunity to do something maybe like a little bit bigger, like, I don't know, pick a cell phone provider or something. You've got 4 options. Pick the one that you think would work out. And if it doesn't work out,
go to another one. We sure as hell did that.
There are so many decisions that we put on ourselves every day that we think are bigger than they actually are, that they've got outs and everything else. Like, they're not life or death. They're really not. May feel like it, but they're not. So how do you make decisions when it does come to those moments where it is really serious? You are unlikely, you're going to be, even if it's unlikely, you're unwilling to do it if you don't have experience making decisions in general. So start now, start small, start any way that you possibly can, making tiny little decisions right now.
Yeah. And let's talk about real quick, like how this has been a big deal recently. A lot of people, they struggle with something, making decisions, and they go straight to chat, right? They go straight to an AI. They go straight to the bot and they're like, all right, what can I do here? What can I do there? I've been guilty of this. You've been guilty of this. Like, that's something that's at our fingertips. But over time, if we're relying on something else to tell us what to do, it's not actually helping us. It's hurting us because we're not making decisions for ourselves anymore. And we're relying on something that is, let's be honest, it's a robot. Like, yeah, it's got some good tips and good information there. But if we're just depending on it, we're not building that resilience we need in life. We're not building those problem-solving skills. In order to have those problem-solving skills, we have to make mistakes. We have to make decisions that we don't want to make, that are kind of scary. We have to get uncomfortable and just like throw it out there and figure out if it's something that we want to do. But we're not going to have these problem-solving skills, and we're not going to build up that resilience or confidence if we're continuously relying on something to tell us what to do.
Yeah, this one's really interesting. This could be an episode in and of itself. But before I start this, if you think that this is baloney, if you think that AI and like it's the greatest tool ever made and there are no downsides, let's talk about the precursor to all of this is the Google effect. If you don't know what the Google effect is, don't Google it, just listen. So the Google effect is your brain's transference of things that we would normally remember to your short-term memory bank that completely dissolves itself within a few moments. For instance, like at one time you had to remember directions, you had to remember people's phone numbers, you had to remember basic facts about things. What Google has done is it's trained your brain and your memory that you don't need to store this because it can be easily recalled via Google. So you will no longer remember people's phone numbers because you don't have to commit them to memory. Your brain knows it's not relevant, it's not important, which is why you've forgotten half of the interesting facts that you've looked up here in the last month or week, or why you've been to this place 4 or 5 times, but you can't remember the directions because you use Google Maps or using Waze or whatever it might be. Our brain has this way of conserving energy. Our brains are so incredibly lazy, and its job is to conserve energy. It's trying to conserve energy all the time. So it wants to find the easiest way to do something. When it knows that you have a way to recall information and it doesn't have to work, it will not commit the stuff to memory. So when it comes to AI, it's really interesting. And it's still such a new technology that we don't know exactly what this is going to do. Like, could this be the most transformative and positive technology? I mean, I've heard it compared to like what the smartphone did for society. It will do that times like multiples, exponential impact on society. Good or bad remains to be seen. Here's what we do know. I was listening to this podcast, Dr. Caroline Leaf. I think it's Caroline, might be Carolina. I'm missing a vowel possibly, but Dr. Leaf. She's very, very big on like social media. She's got a huge podcast. She did this episode on AI, and she had some data from experts on like what we do know about AI. And it's really interesting. When we start to outsource our thinking, there's what's called in your mind friction. Friction is what's created whenever you have to solve a problem, a puzzle, for instance. Whenever I have to figure out the solution to something, whenever I have to think through an issue. Let's say that you're a writer and like, what am I going to write about? Well, I'll just go straight to AI, for instance. It removes the friction necessary that would make you good at creating things to even write about. Or when you think about a relationship issue, rather than combing through your notes to figure out, to jar your memory, to remember the concepts that are relevant to this particular problem, if you just go straight to AI, your mind no longer stores these things. And you actually get worse over time at solving problems.
Right.
You get worse over time at creating solutions. You get worse over time with your confidence about creating solutions. And they're actually studying this. Like, it's measurable. It is actually changing people's minds. So for as like lovely as AI might seem to be, this can actually be dangerous for you because you become to rely on it. It's almost like addiction.
It's another thing to be dependent on when you can't really make your own decisions. And I think making your own decisions is so important in our lives.
Yeah. I see a ton of content. We see this in the content creation space a lot. Like, I take a lot of pride in the fact that if I'm ever using AI, it's generally to bring me data to a certain, like to one place to make my research easier, but I'm not asking it to do research for me necessarily. Like, at the end of the day, like it can't learn for you.
Usually it spits out bullshit anyway whenever we ask it to do stuff like that. It really does.
Like, a lot of it's like really surface level bullshit. And I hate the way that AI sounds. And when it writes, like, you can tell when someone's using AI.
Yeah.
But I see people.
I've done it before, I'll be honest.
But I see people post like this
all the time. Yeah.
Like, I see people in our community posting like what is you would think is their innermost thoughts, but it just came straight from AI. And I wonder, like, is this a bot in the community, or is this someone who's just not confident in their writing ability? And so they wanted to get their thoughts out in a more eloquent way that really captured how they felt. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
No, because I've done that before.
But I just think that what it's doing, though, it's removing friction. And friction is the basis of learning and building confidence and building your surety in yourself that you can make decisions like this and you can handle things.
Yeah. Every time I started, when I was doing that, it was because I couldn't get my thoughts together. I was in a really, really weird space and I couldn't get my thoughts together. So I was like, oh, this just got the thoughts together for me. And I'm going to just throw it out there and see what happens. And I always felt guilty about doing it because I'm like, this isn't really my thoughts. This isn't authenticity. This isn't like legit. And now I can spot it from anywhere. Like, I can spot like, I'm a skeptic at heart anyway. Like, Matt will send me videos sometimes and I'll say, that's AI. That's not real. Or that's not real.
Y'all, she's been doing
that's not real. I've been doing this
for 20 years.
Yeah. This is just the core of me. I am very much, I question everything. I don't think that's a bad thing. So you can come at me if you want.
Annoying.
It is really annoying.
Well, I'm just trying to show you a funny video.
Yeah. And I do. I'm like, that's just bullshit, whatever. But honestly, I think that's why I'm good at what I do sometimes. So just leave me alone.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I went through a period with AI because I was like, oh my God, this is such a great tool to do this. Like I can actually articulate the way that people can understand me. But then I'm like, you know what? This isn't really authentic. This isn't real. And what I've talked about with people before, like this is going to be my year of authenticity. So I'm going to have to work really, really hard, much harder than I did before, to come up with the words that somewhat make sense or whatnot. I'm just going to have to think harder, which is fine. It's a challenge for myself. I want to do that. I don't want to rely on AI. I have used it for outlines, which I think is very beneficial.
It's the world's best tool ever at compiling information like
absolutely.
that. Like for outlines.
And I think that's great. And I think it's great to put in, business stuff. It's great to put in content stuff like, creation or whatnot. It is
to create a budget. It's amazing.
Right. But it is so bad if you're like, hey, give me some topics to talk about on the podcast. We have done this multiple times where we're like, okay, I don't know what I want to talk about right now.
Horseshit, bigger horseshit.
It's just like, this is trash. This is nothing. This is just basic generic shit that you think that we would want to spit out. But sometimes it'll spit something out and I'm like, ooh, I can build on that. Ooh, okay, that just triggers something in my mind where I'm like, oh, I've got an idea there. So then we'll talk through that. But if you're using it as like anytime you need to make a decision, it is good for like meal prepping and stuff like that, or meal planning, things like that. I did do it for that. It's great.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Or maybe an exercise routine or something. But when it comes to like really deep problem solving issues, that you really need to work on yourself or maybe with a therapist or whatever, it's not going to be very beneficial because all it does is validate, condone, and all of this stuff that doesn't really help you make decisions for yourself to make mistakes. It doesn't, you're not thinking.
That's perhaps the biggest issue with using AI for like complex problems in a relationship, or if you're talking about something like addiction. Remember, these things are just LLMs. Like these are just language models. They're predictive about what the next word ought to be. They take concepts from the internet, and there's always going to be some inherent bias built into the software. If you don't believe me, there are kind of two extremes of this that I'm aware of. There's probably a lot more tools, someone who knows a lot more about what's out there in the AI world. But like there's Grok AI, which I think is the one from X. And then there's like ChatGPT, which is OpenAI's model. Grok tends to skew more right, and ChatGPT tends to skew more left.
Have you noticed this on your own? Like using
100%.
Utilizing both of them?
I've A/B tested them because I saw someone talking about this.
Okay.
And X tends to be a lot, like the one from X tends to be a lot more straightforward about kind of being a little more ruthless about stuff, but just blunt and like truthful, I think. Whereas like OpenAI ChatGPT, which is probably the most used, I would say, it tends to be a lot more validating. And like, you can tell like a big company's running it that's very scared. Like, I don't want any lawsuits. Let's be like, as conservative as possible with the advice that we give people. Let's be super gentle. And so if that's what you're using all the time for your advice, like it's never going to question you. It's never going to check you. It's never going to tell you that your thoughts ought to be challenged or questioned.
We've tried.
And like, there are lawsuits pending right now where this stuff has like talked people into like harming other people. Like I think this guy murdered his family.
And harming themselves as well.
Harming themselves. Like guys, you have to be careful with this stuff. There's not another human behind there that understands your experience as much as you think it might. Like you can actually, here's something I've done that's hilarious. If you have a text thread from when you're arguing with someone, a lot of wheelies will do this. They'll throw it into ChatGPT and they'll say, tell me where this person's manipulating me. They're looking for clarity. And I totally understand
Absolutely.
why. And so it will spit out everything that's kind of identifying. Like here's classic Darvo. Like this is narcissistic behavior. Here's selfishness. Like here's deflection. Here's all this other stuff. And then if you tell it, oh, wait, I'm sorry. Actually, no, I am the gray text and they are the blue text. It will do the exact same thing in reverse. And so you can challenge this thing and it'll just spit out whatever
you want.
Whatever you want it to say. It's endlessly validating. So there's also been situations where like I've seen wheelies and like, guys, I got y'all's back. Like I support y'all, but you're not right all the time. And I've seen people that post stuff. I'm like, you're out of line, but AI is not telling you that. And it never will. This is why you need a human across from you to question you. And this is why you have to have friction in your brain as you create friction. Like Did I just say friction? That was
Yeah,
redundant.
you did. It's okay.
This is why you need to create friction in your mind. This is why you need to be open to challenges. If you're living just in this little world where all you're using AI to create and to make decisions, you're going to run into trouble, not just because of the friction problem, but because this isn't a human. This is not a person. This doesn't have the nuance that a human would. It's not going to say things out of character like a human would. It doesn't have experience of its own.
Some of us have come to a place where we ask questions and we want to hear what we want to hear instead of asking questions from like a place of like, tell me what I feel. Give me, advice that might go against what I want to hear. And chat kind of removes that, and it tells you exactly what you basically want to hear in a very validating nice way, which makes sense. And it's okay. And I understand like whenever your nervous system is completely shot or whatnot, and you can't even come up with the words. Like I've encouraged some of our, the people enrolled in our program, I will send them like weekly challenge questions or prompts or something whenever we have a meeting, and sometimes they're like, I just don't know. I can't really respond. I don't really know how to respond to this. And I'm like, okay, hey, throw it into chat just to see if it spits out something that is in line with what you would really want to say to help you get going on answering those questions, not necessarily answering the questions for you, but like kind of getting the wheels in motion, if that makes sense. And sometimes I think that's helpful. I don't think it's like the go-to all the time, but I do think that it can be helpful in some situations.
For sure it can. It's not getting us closer to our goal of being able to make decisions without having to check with everybody.
Well, there was one time that you had sent me a message from somebody that, oh my gosh, that I've gone no contact with for a long time. And we put it in there and it was like, you can respond this way instead of saying you need to get the fuck away from this situation. It like basically gave you a response that took so much energy and so much partial manipulation in a way to kind of help this person or to communicate with this person in a way that was validating, but also standing your ground. And it was like, no, I'm not going to do that.
It sounded like something that a PR firm or HR would produce so you don't get sued.
Right.
That's what it felt like.
Right. But it also felt like, okay,
it
well,
removed accountability. It removed a lot of things.
But it felt really wrong. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going with my gut on this, and I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing and saying, F you chat, you're not always right. Like, I'm not even going to go down that road. And I felt confident in that decision. But in order to get to that place of confidence, I feel like you need to start making those small decisions every day, like we talked about earlier, on how to trust yourself and your decisions and everyday, problem solving, making, whatever.
I was reading something from, there was someone who was looking at this in terms of therapy, because a lot of people are using ChatGPT as their therapist now. That may seem like crazy, like it's just bad, but it's not all bad.
No, it's not.
It's kind of interesting. So it pulls what it knows, and a lot of therapists are using similar tools, and it's well documented research stuff. But therapy is not necessarily meant to be just endlessly validating, which is what that tool will do. A good therapist, anyway, will challenge you at times.
Mm-hmm.
They will. They'll hold you accountable at times. They'll give you exercises. They'll do things to do. Maybe these models get to that point, and they very well could before long.
Here's the thing, though, and I've been really big on this, and I think that even some therapists are on this too. They don't give you straight up advice. And there's a reason that we don't give straight up advice. I try not to give up straight up advice, like in our program or whatnot. I want to ask you questions and give you information to help you come up with decisions on your own. Like, that's the whole point. Like, I'm going to throw in Reclaiming You here real quick, is that we do have a program that it's not advice based. We have exercises within there that will ask you these questions, these really deep questions that will make you think.
Creates friction.
And it creates friction. It helps give you clarity. It helps you understand what it is you're going through so that you can make decisions on your own. I'm not going to tell you what to do specifically. Now, I do know that sometimes we do need some advice, like on little things like, oh, okay, what kind of attorney do I need to look for, or what kind of therapist do I need to look at? What kind of books do I need to read?
Sometimes you just need to check your thoughts with other people that you trust.
Yes. But also you don't have to take what they say and do what they tell you to do. Go with your gut instinct and make decisions based on what the information that you have at hand. You're not going to make the wrong decision. And if you do make wrong decisions, it's going to be okay. And that's what's important about learning about this, is that it's about building that resilience to know that you're going to be okay. It goes back to the even if mentality instead of the what if mentality. It's like, even if something happens, even if I make a decision that doesn't go along with like what I think it should go along with. It's not going to be the end of the world. It's not going to completely blow up your life. If anything, you're going to learn from it, because if you make a mistake, you're going to be like, ooh, okay, what can I do with this? But we're so scared that we're going to make these decisions that just like blow up in our face or blow up our lives, that in the reality of life, it's not going to do that. You're just going to learn from it. And it's okay to be scared, but do it anyway.
Have you seen these new bicycles that kids use? They're called push bikes.
So, are they little kids or what? Tell me about
like
this.
little kids. So when we were growing up, the bicycle you got when like you were little bitty, it had training wheels on it, you know?
It was like a tricycle.
And you would ride on that bike for years. And then eventually your parents would put you on a big bike with no training wheels.
Or you take the training wheels off.
And what would happen?
You'd fall.
You'd crash and fall. I remember vividly running into trash cans,
absolutely.
all kinds of shit, scraping my knees and getting so discouraged that I wanted my training wheels back on. And for some kids, that's what you'll have to do, is kind of like
depending on where they are.
Wean them off of it. Well, many years back, this is long after we were adults. And it was actually after our kids were like, these were around after our kids were little bitty. They are small bikes for kids with no pedals at all, no training wheels. And the kids use their feet.
MJ had one
to push.
Yeah.
Yep. They use their feet to push. And so they're balance
They didn't even
bikes.
start with training wheels.
Right. They teach balance to begin with. And with that balance, it makes it so much easier to transition to a full blown bicycle.
Correct.
So I think the lesson here, what I'm getting at, you might be like, why the hell is he talking about this?
No, I think it's great.
Is I think that too many guardrails and too much restriction on you being able to make decisions makes it that much harder to start making decisions right now. Whereas you look at it more as of a transition kind of thing, like instead of going from I don't work out at all to I'm going to go do 75 hard, let's just try to eat better this week. Or let's try to like walk in the evenings this week. You know, they make it that much easier to transition. Like what makes the most sense for you to do right now? And you're talking about low stakes. That's why I mentioned this, is because it's low stakes. This is very low stakes. You're not going to blow up your life. This isn't like get divorced or not get divorced question. This is not leave them or not. This is not anything like that. This is just, what am I going to do? What am I going to do today?
Well, it kind of, you made me
small
think,
decisions.
Yeah. And you made me think about like an Apple Watch. Okay. It's like, it's got so much at your hands, you know, literally telling you what to do in life. It is very overwhelming over time, because it's like, okay, this watch is telling me exactly how to live my life, basically. Instead of like going with the flow and trying to figure things out on your own, it becomes a crutch. And then people become obsessed with it because they rely on it and they depend on it to tell them exactly what they are and are not doing. Chat does the same thing. Social media does the same thing. We have so much input instead of the output. Right. I'm going to do an episode on that at some point. But I don't wear an Apple Watch for that reason. I don't want to wear a watch because I'm like, I don't need something else telling me what to do. I want to be able to figure things out on my own. Obviously, you can get guidance. There are instructions. There are programs. There are structures, kind of like our program. There's a little bit of a structure in there that helps guide you through these things, but it's not telling you exactly what to do because you're not able to build up that confidence to really do what you need to do and be happy and okay with it. So that's why I decided I'm not doing a watch anymore, because I don't need something else telling me, what I should and shouldn't be doing.
Sometimes less is more.
It's kind of like
simplifying.
Yeah, exactly. Keep it simple. It may not be easy, but it's simple, right? I had mentioned on an episode at some point where I would challenge myself in the car to go certain places without using a map or using my whatnot. Because I think it gets your brain going, and it's going back to the basics of what humans do. It's like, what direction do I need to go in to get to where I need to go?
Makes you far more present too.
It does. It makes you present. So then you're not struggling and worrying about all this shit that's just coming at you constantly and telling you what to do. It's like, you know what? No, I'm going to figure this out on my own and see where it takes me. And if I make a mistake, so be it. I'll be okay.
Yeah. Remember the map quests we would have to print off, and there'd just be a stack of them on the floorboard?
Yep. Sure do remember that. I think my mom still prints out some map quests sometimes.
Man, I would not be surprised.
But to be fair, she can't fully see. So she has to have like something there that's big for her.
Yeah.
These are just little things that I think would help people really start to trust themselves again. And you don't think about that stuff. Mm-mm. You think, oh, this is supposed to make my life easier. Chat's supposed to make my life easier. The internet's supposed to make our lives easier. But the reality is it's making us not trust ourselves anymore and make difficult decisions and have a resilience and be okay with making decisions that may not work.
I know for a lot of our listeners, what they're looking for is a guarantee. I think that's it. At the end of the day, they want a guarantee. They want to watch someone else's path and how that worked for them. And they want to know that there's a clear path ahead before they start making decisions.
Correct.
But they don't live your life. They're not you.
Mm-mm.
They don't have the same circumstances, the same family makeup, the same dynamics of how your mind works and your partner and everything else. And you can certainly gain insight from those kinds of things, but this is your life. This is your life. Live your life. Make decisions that work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Decisions that you want to make, and like mistakes that you want to make too. I've dealt with this and I've struggled with this. A lot of people struggle with this in their careers. I think to give like people that you manage freedom is to give them the freedom to make mistakes, not the freedom to give them like to let them make right decisions. I mean, you hope that they do, but like if you really want people to succeed, you got to let them fail.
Yes, you do.
And they have to learn how to fail. They have to learn how to make, like, you got to let them, like I've had people, and I know that they're about to make a wrong decision. One that even cost us money, like not even a ton, but enough, you know? And it's like, I got to let them figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about it after the fact.
I think that's what makes a good manager. I think that's what makes a good parent. Like we have to do that with our kids as well. We can't save them and soften the blow for them all the time. We've got to let them make mistakes. It's like allowing them to go outside in the cold with no coat on. There was a video that I saw where she was videoing her toddler in the snow, her toddler decided to take her boots off in the snow. And she was walking around with her little piggies in the snow. And you know what happens, right?
Takes about 3 seconds.
She starts crying. She's very upset, And the comment section was like, I was blown away.
Were they like, how dare you?
Yes. Where they were like, you're meant to protect your kid. How dare you allow her to do that? And I'm like, this is how humans learn lessons, is by making mistakes. She was not in danger. Her mom was right there. She wasn't going to let her feet fall off from the cold. She wasn't going to get frostbite. She wasn't going to get sick. Like I'm not even going to go down that path. She was just learning a lesson. And I did that with my kids. There was a time where we had a snow day and MJ just ran out. I think he didn't wear a coat. He didn't do anything. And I'm like, okay, he'll be in pretty quickly. He's not going to let himself die. He's not going to let himself do any of this stuff. Like we don't give them enough credit to learn from these mistakes and allow it to happen. I was just blown away by like people were like, how dare you're such a terrible mom. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, you can't soften the blow for your kids. They have to learn.
I'm always disappointed when I see stuff like that.
I was cheering her on, man.
I always thought that when I became an adult, there would be adults everywhere. But when you realize that you're the adult, it's kind of scary.
You say that all the time and it cracks me up.
I'm the adult now. Like this has got to be a joke. Like I'm the guy.
I have to say it is kind of weird to acknowledge that you're the adult.
Scary, right?
Yeah. Because you were not for a very long period of time.
No.
But there are times where I feel like I'm not the adult too, but it's okay.
There are no adults. I think that we always assume that when we grow up, we're surrounded by people who are going to have all this wisdom and whatnot. There might be a handful of people in your circle that are like that. But for the most part, you're the adult now. You're the adult. You have to make these decisions. You have to do the right thing or the wrong thing. You have to learn this stuff. And that's how you learn it. Mm-hmm. But it comes with friction. I think the more that you outsource, whether it's your self-esteem to social media or it's your decision-making to AI or ChatGPT or other people's experiences on message groups, whatever it might be, like you're not doing your self-service. You're not doing your self-service or the people that are closest to you. What would you do whenever your child came to you then and said, Mom, I'm really struggling. My marriage is falling apart and I don't know what to do. When you pull your phone out, whip out your phone and get on ChatGPT, like you have to be able to give them some kind of real lived experience. And that comes from trying and failing over and over and over again. The reason that we have this show is because we've made so many mistakes. At the end of the day, that's where this stuff comes from. It comes from trial and error of life lived. Mm-hmm. And that's wisdom, right? I wanted to talk about this razor really quick before we move on. I love razors and like axioms and things like that. There's one called the Bezos razor, Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon. And it says, if unsure what action to pick, let your 90-year-old self on your deathbed choose it, which is powerful. Project yourself into the future.
You can go back and let's like talk about that even in everyday basic decisions that you need to make. Like when it comes to your health and eating properly and drinking a drink or impulses or whatnot. That's something you can have in the back of your mind.
I've heard it framed two ways. I've heard, would your 90-year-old self hate you for this decision or applaud you for it? And that kind of guides the right thing to do here. So oftentimes it's the painful thing. In the beginning, like when I was getting sober and figuring out how to adult, I was like, it's the most difficult thing is probably the right thing. It's usually going to be the correct one is the hard one.
Or the one that
really
you
tough.
don't want to do, basically.
So project yourself into the future and ask which option you'll regret not taking. And I think that cuts through a lot of the short-term fear around a lot of the decisions we have to make on any given day.
Mm-hmm.
What would my 90-year-old self ridicule me for? What would they applaud me for on my deathbed?
I'd like to journal about that.
That's a fun one.
To be honest, I would, and
it's
just
hard
with
to
my everyday
read.
things, I could do this like with the podcast. I could do this with content creation. I can do this with eating healthy. I can do this with working out. I can do this as a parent. Like I would really like to dig into that and be like, okay, what decisions do I need to make every day to make my 90-year-old self happy? I love that. I think it's great.
Yeah. And ask the opposite question.
Mm-hmm.
What would my 90-year-old self hate me for?
Right.
And so that would be like not going to the gym, not taking care of my body. Like what I think of like at the end of the day, like the one thing that the wealthiest people in the world cannot buy is health. And this is mental and physical health. And so any decision that leads to a better outcome there is typically the right decision, but it's also the hardest ones. That means you don't eat the cake.
Yeah.
That means even though you've had a very long day, you still need to exercise today.
Right.
It means you need to drink water instead of the fridge cig or, whatever else sugar you want to put in your body.
We're out of fridge cigs and I think that's good.
Not a bad thing. Had so many over the holidays.
Okay, I almost bought some yesterday at the gas station. I was like, no, I'm just going to go
Probably need to
home.
chill
We're
for a
going to
little
deal
bit.
on that. Yeah.
There's also this other razor, Jocko Willink. This one comes from him. The more uncomfortable the activity, the more likely it will lead to growth. 1,000 uncomfortable hours are greater than 10,000 comfortable hours. It's another way of saying that growth comes from leaning into discomfort. And when you fear an option because it's hard, this reminds you that the hard part often has the greater payoff. This is true.
Yeah, I like that.
Amazing things that people achieve are hard because they're hard to do.
Yeah.
They're rare because they're hard to do, because so few people are willing to
do it.
Experience all the discomfort it takes in order to get that. I think that this is really interesting about like this totally tangential subject here, but like GLP-1s.
Yeah.
There's so many people that are fit that hate the idea of people taking GLPs because
they worked so hard to get to where they are.
Right.
I did a lot of fucking work to get to where I was.
So if you think about what that is, it removes the status that you get from being fit. So you've taken away their status that they've worked so hard to achieve, and you've diminished the value of that perceived quote unquote status to say anyone can have this now. You don't have to be exceptional in order to achieve it. Which is interesting when you start to think about like mate selection, like how do you differentiate? But I think that what you ultimately get from doing really hard things are a million other traits that kind of come with it.
You get confidence, you get self-trust, you get discipline, you get a lot of things that can help you be successful in life in other areas.
I've interviewed a lot of people in my time, and something that I've recognized, and this is not a rule by any means, but it's something I think is probably more likely trait, is when someone takes care of themselves and they're really physically fit, they also have other traits that go along with that. Like they're usually well-read and they have a lot of other, what it says to me,
balanced.
What it says to me is this person is willing to work for something that is not an immediate gratification right now. It's
Correct.
a long-term thing, right? So you put forth that effort, in a year or 2 years, you start to see the payoff from that. I think I always said this about college too. When I interview people, when it comes to college, I don't care where you graduated, what you studied, or even really that you went. If someone goes, the only thing I can in my mind as someone who hires people, all it tells me is that you're willing to go through a lot of pain for something at a later date.
Yeah.
And so how does that translate into other aspects of your life? I think that's the only value. Like, I don't want to have an argument about this, but that's the value that I've always seen in it. Because I've also met people who never went to school that have been very successful just because they worked their asses off, in other ways.
Right.
But I think these are kind of like signals to the world about that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, when I think of those that are well-disciplined and they take care of themselves, I think that they're high agency people because they're going against the grain, because the reality of our society and culture for a long period of time was it was okay to be uncomfortable and not take care of yourself. It was like acceptable. It was more socially acceptable. And so if you were in that percentage that was really taking care of yourself, like you're a high agency person because you're going against what everyone else is telling you is okay. And I think that might change within the next 10 years.
It could.
In a way, but that's a whole
this
different conversation.
This is not an episode about GLPs, but
no. But we're just talking about high agency.
Right. But I think that they are still a net positive for the world.
Okay.
Paige is very skeptical.
I'm 50-50 on this. I don't have my full opinion on this yet, honestly.
When
to be
something
honest.
seems too good to be true,
yes,
it just might be.
Right.
We'll
right,
see like in
right.
10 years if there's any side effects.
And I had said, I would never do that. But there's a possibility. I will never say never because there's a possibility that I would do that if it's something that's going to be easier for me. But then again, I'm like, I really like the ability to challenge myself in a way, mentally and physically for high agency, because I'm stubborn as fuck, like I'm a really stubborn person.
Incredibly stubborn.
I am so stubborn. But then I'm like, I don't know if I will just like wave the white flag and surrender and be like, hey, let's give this a shot and see. So I don't know. I'm 50-50 here. I don't know yet.
Time will tell. Reserve the right to change your mind.
Exactly. I'm not judging people who do it. I think that if you're doing that, cool, great for you.
Reserve the right to change your mind.
But if I want to change my mind at some point, then cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right, where are we going from here?
I kind of wanted to talk about validation versus advice, because we were talking about advice here, where a lot of people, they want to get advice from others in order to live their lives because they don't trust themselves. But I want to challenge them and think like, are you looking for advice or are you looking for validation? Because there's a difference in that. And people who have been harmed in relationships, when they have completely lost themselves and don't know how to trust themselves, validation is extremely important. I mean, it's part of our mission: validate, educate, empower, and recover. But it's not necessarily advice. But I do feel like, I want them to ask themselves if they're looking for validation so that they can do what they want to do or what they feel is right, or are they looking for advice in order to not be afraid to be wrong?
Hold that thought. And
Okay.
We'll get right back to this.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about validation. We're talking about a lot of this, but what we're really talking about at the end of the day is trust, and a lot of it's self-trust.
Yeah.
We've got a partner sponsor for our show, SoberLink. SoberLink, in our opinion, the reason it's on this show is because it helps partners trust themselves again. When you have someone in your life who has struggled with alcohol, they've lied to you about whether or not they're drinking. They've lied about their whereabouts. They've lied in a million different ways that have made you question yourself. When SoberLink approached us, it was kind of tough for us because we're like, we believe in like the old school way of building trust, but why is it a benefit? Why did they finally make it here as a sponsor? Why do we believe in what they do? Is because it removes a lot of the doubt that people get, and it helps them begin to make decisions that they can trust themselves again. Like, for as much as SoberLink can be an amazing tool for people to rebuild trust because it holds you accountable. You set up a network of people that get notified every time you use this thing. The inverse of that is that for a spouse, they no longer have to doubt themselves. When a test does come back, or let's say that they say, well, I was asleep, I missed it, whatever else. A lot of times they're picking up on signs that they say, I think that they're up to something, but I can't be sure. The device can help people do that too. So in some ways, it can help couples reestablish trust. It can help them rebuild relationships. It can help you stop drinking. But for other people, it can actually help them realize that they were right all along, and they have to question themselves, and that the person in their life who's struggling with alcohol has, if any, done anything, made them feel crazy and made them feel like they can't trust themselves. And SoberLink can help reestablish trust. That's why it's a partner of our show, because it's beneficial for spouses and partners. It's not just something that has to deal with the drinker. So again, sponsor the show. Really appreciate what they're doing. And they're offering you guys $100 in basically cash, in a gift card, actually. Go to soberlink.com/wheels. Sign up to get a device, and you don't have to pay for these things up front anymore. You can rent them for as little as $19 a month. For $19 a month, you can get a device. Go to soberlink.com/wheels. Check out more about the plans. Get the $100 and start to rebuild trust, maybe as a couple, or what we hope at the very least, trust within yourself again.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
No, that was great. Thanks for putting it in there. This is the appropriate spot.
It is. I was hoping.
Okay, so back to validation and stuff. So whenever we talk about validation, it's really just saying like, that makes sense. I hear you. I see you. I can see why you feel that way. I understand what you're going through. And advice would be, here's what you should do. If I were you, I will tell you personally, if you are saying the word you should in a sentence to me, I am blocking out what you are about to say to me. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I try really hard, and I probably said it before. I'm not going to say I've never said you should or shouldn't do this or given advice. Like, that's ridiculous. But for me personally, if somebody comes up and they're like, and I'm saying something and they say, well, you should do this, or maybe this should be the way, or if I were you, I'm not like, okay, I'm not going to take that. I'm going to figure this out on my own. Challenge. It's kind of, I don't know why I do that. Well, I do know why, but it's just like,
well, Why do you do that?
I don't. It goes back to childhood.
Does it?
Yeah. It goes back to being told what to do all the time. It goes back to if you think of schools and parenting and you should do this or you should do that. It's like, no, I think I should try to figure this out on my own, because who are you to tell me that I shouldn't be doing something? When I'm talking with people, I'm kind of a loner. I'm a loner, Dottie. I'm a rebel. I'm a rebel. He says loner.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, okay.
I was just finishing the quote.
Yeah, okay. A rebel. Anyway, that's Pee Wee Herman. R.I.P. When I have conversations with people, I'm not really one, even when I was in therapy and stuff, it's not really, I guess I was kind of asking for advice, like tell me what I'm doing wrong so that I can change this. But I really just talk to kind of get something off my chest for validation and maybe just like having a conversation. It's not having somebody telling me how to fix it or what to do, because that's a quick way for me to just not. How do you feel about that?
I think
humans do this in general.
I do, but I don't think that. I think a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people quite literally just want to be told what to do.
Really?
I think there are a lot of people in the world who are like, I don't want any of the mental gymnastics. I don't want to figure this out. Just tell me what I should do. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is that you're never going to do something really difficult, because it's going to require a level of pain that you will not go through with. Because in order to get to that place, you had to go through a ton of exploration and having this deep meaning attached to the actions that would make you do that. Mm-hmm. Like there are people who, I've seen this before, like don't just tell me what I should do. Like don't ask me any questions, like just tell me what I should do. What would you do? And the answer could be you need to get a divorce and get as far away from that person as you possibly can.
Oh, they don't like that.
They're never going to do that if they're told, because it has to have meaning, because it has to come from your own decision. It has to come
from within.
Like, why would you get divorced with someone? Okay, well, something terrible must have happened. Well, I have to be convinced of that. You can't be convinced of that. I have to be. And in order to be convinced of it, I have to go back and explore all the reasons why that's true, that they're invalidating, that they're physically abusive or emotionally abusive, that they've neglected my needs for the entirety of our relationship. They're financially abusive. They keep me prisoner, all the reasons. And you have to really explore that stuff. And then you have to get to the place where you say, okay, is 1,000 hours of discomfort better or worse than 10,000 hours of being quote unquote comfortable? And the pain of staying the same has to be greater than the pain associated with change.
Yeah.
And that is a personal venture. For all the people that want the advice that just tell me what to do, it doesn't work that way with big decisions.
Right.
I can tell you, I think T-Mobile, for instance, is better than Verizon. Right? Low risk decision, whatever it might be. Maybe it's different for different people.
Well, I mean, this is what I've learned too, even with working,
big stuff, no.
Working with in this environment for as long as we've been doing this. If I were to tell you what to do, which we kind of tell people what to do on the podcast all the time, if you think about it.
Tell you what we would do.
Right? And then we don't know your specific situation. I mean, I can definitely hear from your situation and say, okay, I know how this is going to pan out. But I'm not going to tell you how it's going to pan out, because I don't feel like you're going to take that advice very well. I think that it's you have to learn it on your own. And I've learned over this time frame that like you don't listen anyway. Like you're going to do what you want to do anyway, even if you do ask for that advice and we tell you what you need to do. Like my goal and my job and part of what I do is to help you make those decisions on your own, because I think it's going to mean more, and it's going to be when you're ready, and it's going to be with more clarity within yourself than from what other people are telling you what to do. Because if we do what everyone tells us what to do, like all the programs or even like religion or schools or parents or whatever, we're still not going based on our instincts. We're not going based on what we really feel is appropriate for our situation. We're doing what other people are telling us is right for us when it may not be what's right for us.
How many people have ever gotten like sober, for instance, because you were told to?
Facts.
Like, what should I do? You should quit using drugs and alcohol. Okay, that sounds like a good idea. But when the rubber, and they might even try it, but when the rubber meets the road and you have that moment where you're triggered by something, or you're bored, or you're stressed, or whatever it might be, you will not have the resolve or the meaning behind that decision. It's so easy to discard and say, well, Paige isn't me. She doesn't understand how I'm feeling right now. What does she know? And you're going to go back and do what you normally do. But if it's my decision, if it's my conviction, I'll dig much harder and I'll work much harder to make the right decision, even when it is hard.
Right.
Which is why other people's advice, like these are the unteachable lessons of life. They will never be as deep as when they come from your own brain and your own mind. I think one of the best reflective questions I've ever heard on this, there's variations of this, but came from Jordan Peterson. He said, treat yourself like you're someone that you're responsible for caring for. Or what I like asking people a lot of times is,
what would you tell your best friend or your daughter?
What would you tell your daughter if she came to you with this very same question? That's usually the right answer. What would you tell someone that you truly care about if they came to you with that very same question? That's the reflective question to be asking yourself in those moments where you're unsure. What would I tell the person that means the most to me? Which should be you. Like that should be you. It should be you that you care the most about.
Right.
Like treat yourself like you're someone that you're responsible for caring for and make decisions based on that frame. Not what you think he wants or she wants or what society says you should do, but what advice would you give someone from your heart of hearts? What would you do?
Yeah.
And that's usually the right advice.
Yeah.
With your situation, write it out, read it back to yourself, remove yourself from the personal of it. Like this is an exercise I've told people to do. Like write everything out, write it all out, write out all the instances of like when it comes to addiction anyway, but you can do the same thing if you're a spouse or partner. So like addiction, it's like all the consequences that you've had, all the moments that you've acted out of character or outside of your values, all the moments that you've done things you swore you would never do. Now let's pretend that your son brought you this list. What advice would you give him about whether or not he should be using substances? And it's like, never, ever, ever, ever. And you stare at him and nod.
Yeah.
It's like, you see where I'm going with this?
Exactly. You're asking the reflective questions though. You're not telling them specifically what to do. And
they
that's
have
what's
to decide
important.
for themselves,
They have to decide
man.
for themselves.
People
but
have to
you
decide
get
for
them
themselves.
to that point
Yeah.
whenever you ask the questions that are deep. That's what our Reclaiming You program does with spouses. And it helps you asks these questions that are really reflective to help you understand what it is you're dealing with and what you're going through and how to make decisions best for yourself. That what you just said, that little exercise is the same concept, but it's not you telling them specifically what to do. They're just going to have to figure that out on their own. In a way, you're guiding them, obviously.
You're just asking the right questions.
They make the decision based on what they come up with.
Exactly. Like Dr. Taylor and I have talked about therapy and like what good therapists actually do.
Yeah.
He says that like therapy is essentially someone who's trained at asking amazing questions,
Absolutely.
holding up a mirror while they ask you questions. And the therapist is just there. Like it's like a third party that kind of explores your brain with you. Chris Williamson was talking about therapy. He used to do meditation, breath work, and things like that. He says he's just done thousands of sessions of meditation, but learned more in a year and a half of twice a week therapy than he did in thousands and thousands of hours of exploring his mind on his own. And he had this really interesting take that I'd never heard anyone say about therapy. It's like living in a house by yourself forever, and you know every nook and cranny. And this is like your mind. You know every nook and cranny of your mind, and you know where everything is. But then when you invite someone new over, they'll point out things that you forgot were even there or didn't realize were even there. He's like, well, what's that door go to over there? And you're like, I didn't even realize that door was there. What is that door? Because you become so habituated and used to your own mind that you forget. So good therapists just ask questions.
Yeah.
And then you have to go explore it. They're just there with you to ask the questions that you wouldn't normally ask yourself because you have so many blind spots or biases.
Our community does that too.
Yeah, it's amazing. You guys are the best.
It has evolved so much within even just the past few months. I've seen some of the I'm not in there as much as I used to be. I'm so proud of
our community.
But the comments are just like, they get people thinking outside the box. And I appreciate the people who post, who ask questions where they're like really looking for something.
Feedback,
you know,
answers.
they really are looking for feedback. They're looking for not necessarily looking for someone to tell them what they want to hear. Like they're really looking for some solutions, and people are coming in with different solutions from different perspectives that are like really helping them open their mind. Like they realize some of it is direct, but they're also like, this is growth. This is growth oriented. This is helping me look at things that I never saw before. And that's a beautiful thing, but it does take, some awareness and some open-mindedness to be okay with asking those questions and getting feedback that you may not want to hear, but you know that it's going to be beneficial for you in the long run.
Yeah.
And it'll help you get through some stuff. So I think the community is just really great in that aspect.
I think every podcaster thinks that their audience is the greatest. And I think that's what our audience excels at, is asking those questions in the right ways and asking them in a loving way and not being annoying, like regurgitated bullshit from 12-step groups or telling people just go and like being really terse and ugly about things.
Right.
Like they are so insightful about how they respond to stuff that gets people to a place where they see the answer to their own question without them ever having to say anything.
Right.
In our audience, our community members are the absolute best at that.
Yeah,
like
it's
they're
really cool.
so good. But I think it's just because you guys listen to these conversations and you've
picked up on it. That's why we only allow listeners in there too, is to keep it safe and also more growth.
Because it wasn't always like this.
No, it wasn't.
We used to let anyone in there, like from social media or wherever.
We did.
And it was a shit show. And so we've weeded them out and now it's only listeners. And so you sacrifice the size of a group, which means absolutely nothing at the end of the day, for quality of a group of 4,000 to 5,000.
Like, what are you getting from this?
Members.
Yeah. Like
they're
they're engaged and they're learning and they're actually sharing their experiences and what they've learned. And it's just amazing. Like it's not just like, what have you learned in TUFO? It's all about thinking outside of the box and having conversations.
I learned from them. It's not like we're
right. But it's not like, certain programs, you have groups where it's like, oh, they will remove your comments so fast if you go against the grain. And it's like, whoa, we don't do that. We've removed maybe a handful of comments that have been, very hurtful and harmful to other people, obviously. But we keep it safe for others to be able to be open-minded and ask questions that are outside the box and have like adult conversations and discussions. Like, I feel like in other programs or other situations, they look at you as like you're almost stupid in a way, to where like you have to just live by this or you're not living the right way. And we don't do that. We want people to come in who want to open up the discussion and the conversations that are just like intellectual conversations, like just talk about what is going on within your life and how it's affecting you and impacting you. And then other people come in with like just the badass answers of just like, okay, did you ever think about this? Or maybe we could go this route or whatnot. And it's a beautiful place. I think that a lot of people have learned a lot from there and grown a lot from it. And it's going to evolve. It's going to change over time too. Different things.
It's amazing. I think when it comes to 12-step like communities like you're talking about, it's the same answers over and over and over, and they're not even helpful answers. And I'm not even sure that these people understand what it is that they're saying. They're just regurgitating what they've heard that came from someone that heard it regurgitated, that came from someone that heard it regurgitated.
There's no room for new ideas.
No, it's just passed down shit year over years. Every so often you get someone who knows how to frame real wisdom in the context of that process of the 12 steps, but they're few and far between. They're pretty rare. Like a lot of times what you normally get is just people who regurgitate bullshit over and over and over.
Like, I want to know, do you really believe that? Or is that something that you've been conditioned to believe based on what you've done and what you've been through?
That's why that's
a whole other different conversation.
That's why
honestly.
a lot of people refrain from going to those kinds of communities or groups or programs even. And it's a disservice to, I think, what the real value of them can be, because you get so much of this like front of the line bullshit answers and slogans and just repeated shit over and over and over that like it loses its meaning when it's said so much.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So it needs to be reframed in a way that makes sense and like really hits, but no one thought that hard about it. They just followed the leader.
Yeah.
It's a huge turnoff.
Yeah, it is. Well, that's a whole totally different conversation.
Yeah.
So
it is.
I don't really have anything else to add to this. Do you have anything else that you needed to add?
Man, I would recommend that you go to my favorite writer on high agency thinking is a guy named George Mack. We've talked about, he's got a website called highagency.com. That's incredible. He wrote this essay about what it is to be high agency. And what we mean by high agency is this is someone that happens to life. Life does not happen to them. They're someone that takes initiative. They think for themselves. They go against the grain. And I think it's a powerful idea. And it's also amazing to think that you're not just born with, that you can develop over time. He's the greatest writer on this. Follow his Substack, George Mack. Check out highagency.com. If this has been an interesting conversation to you and you want to expound upon a lot of these ideas, this is the guy that I listen to, for instance. Like, this is where a lot of my ideas come from. Absolutely amazing about how to think for yourself and how to go against the grain to start to make decisions that really align with you. I think we've got a new year. We've got a fresh slate. If we weren't happy with the way that things went in 25 and 26, they can be different, but nothing will change if your decision making doesn't change. Nothing will change if that mind that was making all those decisions hasn't changed the way that it does things. And so this is possibly the most fundamental place to do it is in how you make decisions and who you're allowing to make those decisions. Are you making decisions based on what your parents want, on what the church wants, on what this program wants, or what you think others want? Or is it what you want and what you truly know is best, but you're too afraid to do? We are for you. If you are someone that wants to think for yourself, we will break rules with you. We will make mistakes with you. We will love you through it. We will share with you how we effed it up. And like, there's no shame in this. This is how we learn. This is how we explore new avenues. This is how man went to the moon. Like, let's break some rules. Let's figure some crap out. And that's what we're here to do. And we're going to do it with you every step of the way. There are no rules. There are no adults. We are the adults. So let's create a path that makes sense to us. And let's do it together. There's no better way to do it than with other people who are trying to do the very same thing. That's who we are. And we hope that we attract the same people, or people who want to think that way. I think we could all use a little more of that. I really do. For everything going on in the world right now, I think we have to have people who stand up and say, hang on, I think that's bullshit. I think it's more important now than ever that we have individuals who are willing to do that. This could be in your relationships. This can be in your communities, anywhere, parenting, you name it, but it's going to have benefits. And at the end of the day, what it's really going to do, it's going to help you be true to you. It's going to help you be authentic, and you're going to be proud of the person you are whenever you look in the mirror, when you go to bed. You will feel more at peace. You will feel like you're alive behind your eyes. You will be living with purpose, and there's no better feeling. Like, there's really not.
Seriously.
When you're living that way, like, so many of the other things that used to be important are no longer important. And when you're surrounding yourself with other people who are doing the same thing, like, you'll know that you found your tribe. So you found us. Here we are. Let's do this thing.
Yeah. I just kind of wanted to end with a challenge, and you had mentioned a challenge earlier, but I wanted to end it with this. And also, this might be a great discussion to bring to the community. I would love to have more discussions on the podcast sometimes on like what you're learning and how you're applying some of this stuff to your own life. I would challenge you within just the next 24 hours. Let's start small for just a moment. I know you said 30 days, but let's just start small for a moment. No group texts for reassurance. Don't poll your friends. Don't Google opinions. Maybe stay off chat. Don't ask chat a question for 24 hours and see what happens there. So you can gather information, but don't outsource the decision. So you can allow yourself to read stuff, to like get facts or instructions, directions. Like, that's important. That's how we think. That's how we learn. You don't have to agree with everything you read, obviously, but take bits and pieces and like learn from that. Let's see. Just don't ask like, what should I do? What would you choose? Is this okay? Try to make some decisions on your own. Try to, like, if there's something that you feel that you are always asking reassurance on, take it away for a day and see how it feels. It's going to feel weird at first, possibly, but it's going to help you like slowly start to build that confidence to make the bigger decisions of, maybe looking for an apartment, opening up a bank account that's separate. Start thinking about different things that you need to do outside of your relationship or whatnot. Start there. Start where to eat, what to wear, all those things. See where you ask these questions and then try to make the decisions yourself and see how it feels.
It'll be empowering. You'll be shocked. Even with the little stuff, it's empowering.
I love it. I think it's fun. I look at it as a challenge. There was something that you had right here that I wanted to say real quick.
What's
to
up?
reframe decisions as experiments. I love that.
Oh, that's a George Mack thing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Instead of looking at these decisions as like, oh, I just have to make this. I need to make sure that this is right. Look at it as an experiment. That's great. I love that.
Get rid of, he says, like Max says, just retire the word decision from your vocabulary and instead create a hypothesis and design experiments and then run them and then see what happens. What's cool about that is that even with so-called irreversible decisions, like having a child with someone can be turned into an experiment if you think hard enough. Like, experiment with a dog first and then go from there. You can experiment, like run experiments. Like, that's what life is about. From that, you will have evidence in your life that makes you more confident in making decisions. But we won't use the word decisions. Experiments.
Right. And you had mentioned
hypothesis test. There we go.
Yeah. And
turn it into a science.
And you don't even have to think that hard about it. It's more of just like challenge. Let's like figure this out. But earlier before, I don't even know if you mentioned this on the episode, but as we were doing our pre-conversation or whatnot, you had said, change the word problem to puzzle.
Yes.
Who was that? Do you know?
I think it was Mac again.
Was it again? Okay.
I think so.
Oh, that dude's awesome. He's great.
He really is. But like, yeah, I don't have a problem. I have a puzzle.
I have a puzzle.
Actually,
I have to do.
Before this ever came up, me and you talked about this, I think like last week. We were talking about, it was like a real, like a relationship type issue thing. Or maybe it was like you and some of the stuff that you're going through like personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it was about challenging your emotions or something. And I was like, I think of them like puzzles. Like it's a puzzle to solve. And I've always kind of encountered problems, quote unquote, problems that way. It's a puzzle to solve. Like this piece has to be moved here. Let me try this one. Ooh, it doesn't quite fit. Let me throw it over here. But that's kind of the same as the experiment thing. Like you have to try things. Like give yourself permission to make mistakes and screw stuff up, and don't treat it like that. Treat it like an experiment.
Perfectionists have issues with this.
Oh, 100% they do.
I think I have issues with this in certain areas.
It has to be right.
I'm really good with the small
and I
stuff.
can't make a decision until I have 100% certainty. Whereas
you're not going to have clarity or certainty or anything until you start making moves, until you start making decisions.
I think Steve Jobs was the CEO that had the quote. He would say that, like, what is your motto here? And it's move fast and break things. Make decisions quickly, break stuff. Let's figure out what doesn't work and let's keep going. Move fast and break things. And like that was his thesis. And I think that
this also helps with overthinking too.
It absolutely does. You won't have to think hard about it. Just move fast and break things.
Just do something. Just do something different. See what happens. Yeah.
It's an experiment. You're not going to go back.
You're not going to die. You're not going to like completely lose your life, like your stuff. And if you do, you won't even know, it's like, that's how I think of it. Like, okay, at least I tried. I'm going out with a bang.
Yeah. Like Matt calls overthinking a tax on life. Like we spend roughly 8 hours a day overthinking or thinking about things,
making decisions instead of doing something. Just take action. And you're not going to get that clarity by thinking of these things, only by action.
So much of life is wasted. We could just be
I know.
acting.
This was a good episode for me personally, honestly, to start this new year for myself.
Secret to everyone who listens, this podcast is nothing more than just putting a camera inside of our relationship as we grow. It's a thinly veiled, just behind the scenes look at how we get through stuff. And you guys just happen to listen to it.
Yeah, we process this stuff together.
Most of our episodes are that way. Like it's me and you processing things and like talking about things. And we just started recording the conversations we would have in the kitchen.
I like this topic though, because it gets me excited. It gets me looking back to like things that I've done that I've pushed through, because this past year was challenging mentally for me on some levels. I had a lot of growth, but there was a lot of mental challenges. And I think that these types of conversations fuel me. Like these are what get me pumped. These are like life skills that anybody can benefit from. It's not just the niche that we talk about in our circle or whatnot. This is for anybody. Like, and I love that, because we're almost making a full circle, because I talked about authenticity. That's my word. Our group's name is like Authenticity Wins. We're just kind of leveling it up this time when we're discussing this.
All of the problems that you have right now in your relationship, you think are so hyper focused on and specific to addiction or a substance or him or whatever it is. It all boils down to this stuff at the surface. This is the stuff that you ought to be spending most of your time on. You don't need more episodes about addiction. You don't need more episodes about any of that shit. You really don't.
No, it's life skills.
It's life skills
this
stuff.
This is why on Tufo,
distill any problem low enough, and this is the root of all of problems. It doesn't matter. This could be a podcast about entrepreneurship, and this would still be the solution. This could be about relationships and addiction. This would still be the solution. It's all the same. Like it's transferable knowledge that benefits you everywhere in life. And we just happen to discover this stuff through the lens of addiction and relationships.
No, not necessarily. You, yes, me, no. That's why I put on our website, we have book references, and there's not very many on there about addiction or codependency or whatnot. It's mainly about personal development. I became who I am based on personal development literature and things like that, not addiction, not that route, because that's not what it boils down to. Like boundaries and stuff, that's a life skill that people have. It has nothing to do with addiction. It has nothing to do with the chaos in your relationship.
More relevant in those circles.
Well, it is, but boundaries are, it's all about living by your values. Like that's what we preach here. That's what we do. And it's not about addiction. Like when people have asked before in the past multiple times, like, what kind of book is going to help me with this part of the addiction or this addicted brain or this and that? And I'm just like, I don't care. Like, that's not what's going to help you. What's going to help you is to build these life skills to live your life authentically and by your values. Like, that's really the basis of it. That's what helps me is personal development. And that's why I've expressed to you, like when you speak with the men in the life or whatnot. It's like, come at it from personal development and not the sober life part, because that's what helped you. Remember?
That's
we talked
what I
about
wanted
this.
to do.
We talked about this on our live
Just
though
wanted to
recently.
be a better man.
You didn't. It wasn't about removing the substance when you wanted to change. That had to happen. But it was about, I just want to be a better man. How can I develop personally to become the man that I want to be? So it was about life skills. And that's the perspective that you needed to actually make changes. And I feel like that as a spouse and a partner, that's what we need. We need to have this ability of like, I want to live the life that I want to live. Not reading all the stuff about addiction or anything like that. Like, it's what do I need to do to live by my values and be confident and trust myself and do the things that I want to do and be a better parent, be a better wife, be a better husband, be a better person for me, a better child, whatever. That's what's important. And these are the skills that you're going to need to learn to do that.
There's a lot of you that are rebuilding life together, and this stuff will become the basis of your connection and how you begin to build this next chapter of your life. For a lot of the others, you already know the answer. This relationship will not work, but you won't do it until you feel like you have enough information. What I'm saying is that you don't need more information. You need more action. But you won't do that until you've kind of practiced with this stuff and made sense of this stuff. Those are the kind of the two outcomes people have. I understand that for some people, living or leaving is a privilege, and there's some others that have to learn how to manage chaos. But I think even for you guys, it will eventually come to a head at that point where you've got to make decisions, and there's no better time to start practicing than right now. Because even if you can't leave right now, you can start to live by your values. You can start to live a life of meaning for you, and that will look differently. You will notice that kind of by just as an effect of living the right way, you will worry less about the stuff that used to trouble you day in, day out, and all the rumination, because you will be confident that no matter what puzzle's in front of you, you can solve it. And that's where real peace comes from in life. It's not knowing the answers to every single problem and every single possibility. It's knowing that you have the basis of tools to solve problems. And when you've got that, you become untouchable. Like, you become dangerous. Like, you can do anything you want to do. You don't have anything to fear. And like, that is the greatest freedom that there is. That's what we try to do here.
Yeah.
That's what we're after. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for hanging out with us in this new year. Until next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Paige.
We'll see you.
Bye.